guys, why don't we go ahead and get started? With quite a few people in the room. We're expecting quite a large crowd today. So first of all, everyone, my name is Terrence Lagren, AKA the Optical Poet, Director of Programming and Partnerships for the Vision Council and Vision Expo shows. And on behalf of the Vision Expo team, I want to welcome everyone to our first Eye-to-Eye series and coffee talk conversations. So welcome everybody. It's history being made right now. All of our panelists and moderators, they all have their beverage of choice. We invite you as well to have your hot or cold beverage of choice as well. So we decided to use Zoom for this platform. We looked at a few other softwares. We thought Zoom was the best for a number of reasons. But we realized that since the quarantines had started, we were missing a sense of community. So Zoom is being able to allow us to see each other's faces, to interact with one another, scroll through the list to see if you know people there as well. But we felt that it really allowed us to connect even better. However, though, in order for the Zoom to be effective, we should want to ask that only the panelists will unmute themselves. So if you are not on mute, please remain on mute as well. You also have the opportunity to use the chat feature. So if you see in the bottom of your screen, there should be a box that says chat. So if you have any questions for the panelists, feel free to go ahead and type a question in, and we'll feed them to Trudy, who is moderating, and she will decipher the questions there. If we have time for Q&A, there's actually a raise your hand button. So if we have time for Q&A, go ahead and raise your hand, and in that way we will actually zoom you in on video. You could ask your questions live. Now I will tell you guys, there are gonna be 500 people, which is amazing in this session. So we probably will not get the opportunity to answer every question live, but we'll take those questions down and we'll make every effort to communicate your answer to you via email. Now, just in case we get disconnected or we have any technical difficulties, we get disconnected, what we're gonna do is we're going to log off and then we'll ask you to log back on. Now, if we're not running in the next 5 minutes after we get disconnected, we're gonna postpone the session for another day. So just if we get logged off, just log back in using the same link and meeting ID. So without further ado, now the housekeeping is over, I'm gonna turn the entire meeting over to Trudy, co-founder of marketing for ECPs, and she is going to be moderating and conducting this symphony.
Well, thank you, Terrence, and welcome everybody. I want to say good afternoon, but I think it's still good morning for quite a few people out there. So depending on where you're from in the country, welcome. And thanks for being here with the first Vision Expo Vision Council Eye-to-Eye series. We're pretty excited, right everybody? Woo, we're excited to be here and be your first panel. You know, and the one that is super important right now, and that is, how do you keep your business going during COVID-19? You know, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've seen a lot of things happen in this world. I've seen floods and fires and tornadoes and hurricanes, and I've seen things that can take down a business, but not all businesses. So I'm sure that you're here to see what you can take back as far as information and learning to help your business. And that's exactly what we're gonna do today. We're gonna talk to, you know, 3 other business owners. I'm a business owner too. As Terrence said, I am the co-founder of Marketing for ECPs. We're a digital marketing agency for eye care professionals. And like everybody else, we've been impacted. But we're gonna speak specifically to, you know, business owners in this industry and get some insight into what they're going through. So on that note, I want to introduce you to your panel. I'm going to go one by one and get them to tell a little bit about themselves. So we're going to start with Dr. Jennifer Tsai, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer, and I'm a optometrist practicing in the heart of COVID, which is New York City. I specialize in dry eyes, myopia control, ortho-K. I'm also the founder of a cold start called Line of Sight, which is a modern vision and wellness optical boutique. It is in construction currently with the coronavirus, and also founder of an e-commerce line called Carrot Eyewear, which is a trendy, affordable blue light protection that's sold online. And a speaker and social media influencer. I do personal branding tips and eye care tips on my page called Dr. Gin and Juice on Instagram, YouTube, and I just downloaded TikTok, so.
Yeah, if you're not following Jennifer, you need to. She's active on social media for sure. We're gonna go next to Dr. Mei Fleming.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mei Fleming. I graduated from Berkeley Optometry School in 2001. Shortly after graduating, I took over an existing practice and ran that practice for a few years. I went on to have a couple of young kids that were spaced very closely, so I actually ended up selling that practice in order to be a little bit more hands-on mom at home. I always knew that if I came back, I wanted to own another practice. Entrepreneurship is definitely in my blood and I enjoy it. So I knew how I wanted things to be set up the next time around. So 2.5 years ago, I started Luminance Vision Optometry, which is located in Lafayette, California. That's about 15, for those of you that don't know, it's about 15 miles east of San Francisco. And it's sort of, we focus in dry eyes. It's a very kind of high-tech practice and focus on eye styling services as well as all independent eyewear lines. I manage, before actually opening my practice, I also have a passion for fashion. So I did a little bit of fashion blogging. So I continued to do that a little bit in incorporating eyewear. So I have a social media account that is I Like Fashion, spelled EYE, like fashion blog. That's the handle. And I also manage our own social media channels for my practice, which is at Luminance Vision. And that's my story.
Thanks, Mei. And then we've got Optician Gary Black from Black Optical. Tell us a little bit about you, Gary.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. You know, I started eyewear 25 years ago, whenever I was a teenager. And then 13 years ago, I started Black Optical in Tulsa, Oklahoma, expanded the company to Oklahoma City, and then 3 years ago, we expanded to Dallas. Yeah, that's us.
Oh, that is quick, Gary. I could probably tell people a little bit more about you. They're going to learn about you as we go here, though. This is great. We're going to dive into some questions, you know, and as Terrence mentioned, please feel free. I see the questions coming up as well. I can see everybody arriving. We've got some targeted questions for our panel, but we will try to interject different questions if we think that we're not already going to answer them throughout the conversation. And, you know, panel, I understand the last couple of weeks have been all about, you know, every day something changing in what the current situation is, the closure of your practices. And although we're going to concentrate most of this panel discussion on what to do next, I'd love just to hear from you guys on maybe what was one of the biggest challenges the last few weeks, or, you know, closing your practice. What was one of the biggest challenges in closing your practice? And we're actually going to go to Gary first. If you can maybe just tell us a little bit about what was maybe, you know, one of the hardest parts of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think we're at Black Optical, we're such a people-driven business. You know, we see our employees as stakeholders. We see the vendors we work with as stakeholders. You know, we see other businesses in our neighborhood as stakeholders in what we do. So the hardest part for us was making sure that everybody we interacted with felt really secure. They also felt very safe, and we had their best interest in mind. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. You know, something you said earlier is that you've seen a lot of things happen throughout the economy and business, but this is the first time that everybody's experiencing the exact same thing. And everybody has worries, everybody has fears, but there's also a lot of optimism in there too. And it's making sure that we're constantly seeking that optimism. You know, that's been I won't say it's a challenge, but that's been the hardest part, is making sure that everybody we interact with is on the same page and has trust, and that we're going to do the right thing.
I think that that's going to be super important as you reopen as well. We'll get to some of those reopen strategies, but that safety, that trust, that confidence is going to be pretty important to your customers and your patients. Mei, tell us a little bit about what happened with you in the last few weeks.
So in Bay Area on March 17th is when the shelter in place took effect, and that's the last day we were open to see patients. So my memory of that day, since like, it feels like every day it just happens, everything is happening so quickly every single day that there's just, it's been a bit of a blur. But I remember that day being one of our record number of dispenses, because as soon as we knew we were going to go shelter in place, we notified all of our patients that had, you know, jobs that we hadn't delivered yet, that they can come by. We were doing immediately that day curbside drop-offs, and I sent out a mass email to all of our patients to let them know that we will be closed, and if you have things to pick up, we're doing curbside pickup and delivery if needed. So the toughest thing, I think, with the closure was just like, as an owner, the reality of the fact that there wasn't going to be any more revenue. We were closed. We're such a service-driven office and business that I kind of had to rewrap my mind around how there wasn't going to be any revenue. Really, in my mind, I thought, oh my goodness. So I've been, since shelter in place took effect, I mean, I've been making this analogy. In my mind, it kind of felt like a cash hemorrhage. So immediately, as an owner, I went into how can like we preserve the working capital, and in every angle, I was just felt like I was managing and stopping putting Band-Aids on all the areas that felt like it was just a cash hemorrhage going on everywhere I turned. So I think that was one of the toughest part. And from that was obviously payroll and staff, into the reality that I couldn't continue paying my staff and keeping them on board without just continuing to cash hemorrhage. So I think for me, the hardest and toughest part of closing the business, not only was it to obviously not be there for the patients, but my responsibility to the staff. So furloughing my staff was probably the toughest thing so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've heard a little bit and pieces of your story from a lot of practice owners in the last few weeks. And I think everybody has gone through the same thing. In fact, just a note on what you said is I've talked to several practice owners who, in the process of trying to stop the hemorrhage of the money, you know, really learned what money their business was spending. They were back at looking at every financial statistic, all their credit card statements, and they were actually surprised at what was going out the door. So it's probably a pretty good review of your financials at this time as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Jennifer, tell us a little bit about your past few weeks.
So I guess my situation is slightly different just because my practice is in construction. But I mean, it doesn't really get any more real than this. Being like in New York City, there is a real fear of being infected and worrying about your patients as well. So it's been hard, I would say, as a business owner for the store, because we've had to deal with limited ability to do constructions, delay of the opening. It was supposed to be April, not being able to speed things up. So right now, just focusing on like virtual interviews, Zoom meetings, and things like that. I'm not sure who that. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. And applying for like SBA loans, PPP, EDIL, and things like that. I would say as an optometrist, the hardest thing is that, as Gary said, the patient interaction, finding ways to be able to see patients ongoing and help them as much as I can. So figuring out what telehealth sites to go on, integrating it, and learning billing and coding for that. But I do think that learning to adapt as soon as you can to change is challenging. And it's tough, but it only becomes easier over time. Just like, you know, when you first start working out, it's hard in the beginning, but as you go through it, it just becomes easier.
Yeah. You really truly are in the eye of the storm as far as your location and really what's going on in the United States right now. And I actually was going to go to you for this next question about emergency services, but knowing you're in construction, I'll shoot that one over to Mei. Tell us a little bit, Mei, of what you are currently offering in your practice, if anything.
Yeah. For sure. We have let our patients know that in order to, you know, obviously minimize unnecessary visits, we are in a pandemic, and, you know, just to decrease the exposure as much as possible for our patients, we are offering, urgent eye services and care to our patients. And I think that is something, unless you communicate that to your patients, they don't know, and so we have sent out notifications, and people know and have been like really specifically instructed on how to get a hold of us during this time. We do have minimal, I do have a staff member at the office 2 days a week, like very minimally, to just do operational stuff. So for the patients that have any urgent eye, situations, they know to text me. My office has the ability to text, so they can text me to get a hold of me. They can email me. So we are offering that. We are offering to obviously order contact lenses, even if their prescription is about to expire or has expired, to hold them over. We are authorizing, prescriptions, like any prescriptions that's expired, medicine, whatever the patient may need at this time. I think during this pandemic and during our closure, anything goes. It's just to make sure that we're still here for them, we're still servicing them. So that's what my practice is offering.
Okay, great. Gary, knowing that you're currently closed, tell us a little bit of the situation with your staffing. Are you still having them work, or how are you communicating with them? What's the current staff situation?
We were fortunate enough to be able to keep 100% of our staff employed, fully employed, with benefits. So we're lucky. I mean, our work days have definitely changed quite a bit. Our store hours are 10 to 6 in some markets and 10 to 7 in other markets. And that's definitely shifted. But at the same time, since we're a lot of opticians, it's, we've had to get a little more creative since we can't sell every day like we used to and service our clients every day, how can we stay engaged? So we've always had weekly meetings as a team or as a company every Wednesday. Just before this meeting, we had one. But we've also broken into smaller teams that are working on some housekeeping projects we wanted to do, whether it was something as small as cleaning up our POS system or working on some bigger picture items that as we re-enter back into the market, what does Black Optical look like? And then those teams meet on a more regular basis. I mean, something we've learned is that you just have to trust your team a little more often during this time. Maybe they're not doing 40-hour work weeks, but I feel like our team is just as productive, working a little bit less right now as they were, prior to the pandemic. But I think.
Are you using any? Oh, sorry. Are you using any communication platform to talk to them ongoing?
We do. We introduced Slack, which is an intercompany communication software, a couple of years ago in the Black Optical. It was a way for us to be able to keep our communication in one channel versus having it fragmented between text, phone calls, emails. Having it in one spot has helped. But also we have, what our daily meetings look like. We have an agenda for them. What our weekly meetings look like, we have an agenda. And we've, as the rest of the country, we've essentially switched to Zoom in order to keep that interaction. We've also, instead of doing traditional phone calls, we always try to hop on a Zoom call, just so we at least still have that face-to-face engagement as well.
It's so important right now.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I love Slack. We use Slack for our business as well. And it just allows you to do so many things, from create, separate channels for the owners to talk to, full communication channels for the entire office. So love that. Yeah, it's very helpful, and it's free. You can get a free version that works for almost everything. So try Slack. I'm going to direct the next question to both Jennifer and Mei, and I'll start with you, Jennifer. Interesting enough, I was on another webinar yesterday and really talking about patient communications and marketing, and I think there's a lot of confusion out there these days with practice owners and optical owners. What do I communicate? How much do I communicate? Should I market to them? Should I even market emergency services? What should I be doing right now? So maybe I'll go to you two and see what you're doing and maybe some advice that you have. Jennifer?
Well, right now I am doing telemedicine. I'm offering eye exams for emergencies. And I think immediately when this all happened, this is obviously all new to us. We were just trying to navigate as optometrists what platforms to use, how do we share that with our patients. So I'm on DoxyMe, and I think it's great because from a patient's perspective, I tried it out. It's very easy. You just open up a browser and they can just wait in the waiting room for you. And I share on my personal profile exactly what type of visits we are able to do so that the patients understand what it's used for before booking. And using that in ZocDoc and sending patient emails also helps so that they are educated, because what we really want to do is help reduce the burdens on the hospitals by seeing patients for concerns with, let's say, eye pain. They think it's a serious emergency, but it turns out being dry eyes or pink eye. So things like that, or swollen lids, we really do, we can provide help with that over teleoptometry or telemedicine. And I think just educating on social media or on your like sites, hey, you can meet me on Doxy. We can talk about any eye concerns that you have or prescription concerns, and that you're readily available to help them, I think really makes a difference to share the right information to your followers and your patients.
Great, thank you. How about you, Mei? Communications, marketing?
Yeah, definitely. I think I touched upon it earlier. Like as soon as we closed, we sent out a mass email just to keep all of our patients informed. And in that email was basically, I think our first email was just basically logistics, you know. And I think as a practice, as we were trying to figure it out, it was just about delivering the information of the logistics, like we are going to be closed until further notice. Follow if you want to stay up to date to keep them informed, follow our social media channels, and we will be posting updates on that as we have them, as we know, because we really didn't know at that point. So that was sort of our first point of communication, was that first week. The second week, another mass email went out, and that letter was more intended to let them know, all our patients, what we are offering. And so I crafted the letter so that it was like bulletproofs, like bullet points, I'm sorry, so that the patients could just read it and know exactly what we were offering. Like if you experience any sudden changes in your vision, if you have itchy eyes, you have red eyes, you have uncomfortable eyes, you get something in your eye, you have headaches and whatnot, all of those things we had enumerated on our email to let them know, call us, text us, email us. Also, what are the things if you're running out of contacts, and so just listing all of the things that they can still reach out to us to order, that how we can deliver it to them, how it's going to be a safe interaction, or if we can ship directly to your house. And something that maybe, especially listing all the things that are different than we may have been doing prior to the shelter in place took effect, because maybe they didn't know that we could do this. So that was sort of the second communication point. And also to deliver just information on, like, I'm a big proponent that at this time, especially if you're at home, try to get out of your contacts and wear your glasses more, and kind of pushing that onto my patients. And so that was sort of like the next point of communication. Think are we on week 3 now? Yeah, I think that's this last email that just went out actually. So we sent out another email blast this last week, and this one has been more focused on, I'm kind of shifting towards like between just going through logistics, what we are offering. They know now I'm here for telemedicine, and we can still order your things for you that you may need to replenish on, and things like that, backup glasses, computer glasses, since everybody's on their screen, more screen time. And now I'm shifting more towards kind of like education, letting them know like these are the things that you should be doing. The last email that we sent out, I did something on hypochlorous acid, and now like all my patients are reaching out. Can we get some? So I think as a business owner during this time in communication, I think sometimes the knee-jerk reaction, because we're like our revenue is significantly down, and so I think that the knee-jerk reaction is to, hey, how can I generate more revenue? But I think my approach has been more towards, how can I be there for my patients? And by being there, I think secondarily, some of that revenue that we just at this time can get some type of revenue, we'll have some of that. Obviously, it's not sustainable. Obviously, it's not like you know, the revenue when we are open. However, I think that it's important, the communication and the tone and the message I'm trying to send my patients is that we are here for you, and here's information. That information, I think, makes them feel empowered, and I think it keeps them calm and then builds trust, which I think is all going to serve the practice better, like long term. So I've kind of focused all of that communication in a way that I feel like speaks to them and sort of the mindset and emotional state that they may be right now. And in that, still obviously letting them know how we can deliver all of these services and be there for them.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to quickly interject one of the questions because I've seen it come in a couple times now. And maybe Jennifer, you can answer this, is how long would you approve an expired prescription? So whether it's an eyewear prescription, whether it's contact lenses, eye drops, without seeing them, how long would you comfortably feel prescribing it at this point?
Right. I think, again, the rules, I think day by day are changing, and state by state, it's all different. I think with prescriptions, as long as, you know, they're seeing fairly well and you've seen them before, I would say 6 months. Glasses, I would say around the same time. I probably wouldn't give them a full year's worth. Obviously, you're just giving them enough supply to last them until they can come in and see you again, which I'm predicting maybe sometime in the summer or in the fall. So just enough lenses to at least last them through it.
Great. So Gary, I'm going to come over to you and ask you a couple questions. So one, I think, you know, what does your day look like these days? We're going to get you to answer that, but I also want you to include, you know, what are you preparing for the future? You know, a comeback plan, a relaunch plan, a we're open strategy, you know, and what does that look like? And are you considering maybe how the eyewear, eye care consumer is going to change, and maybe what you can prepare for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say what my day looks like. My day has definitely shifted quite a bit. You know, I used to do half my time was on the sales floor working with clients. Half my time was thinking about what does Black Optical look like in the future. You know, now I'm doing way more listening than I ever have. You know, I reach out and I talk to my banker often. I talk to my accountant. I talk to other business leaders, you know, that I normally might not have talked to on a daily or weekly basis. As far as a comeback strategy, you know, I'm not thinking necessarily about how do we come back, but what I think about is how do we evolve? And that's something at Black Optical we've always done really well, is we've always, even though we're 13 years old and pretty established, I've always seen us as a scrappy little startup. You know, so we have this cycle that we try to first stabilize, and then we try to adapt, and then we try to innovate. And right now with COVID, we're kind of just in this other cycle of how do we stabilize right now? And then once we're stabilized, how do we adapt and change what it means to be an eyewear retailer? You know, and a lot of these are things we were having conversations about before this even hit. I think now it just makes it, you know, it makes it easier to have those conversations because we don't have the distractions that we normally have within our four walls. You know, so I see consumer shopping being more appointment-based, which is something we've always seen with doctors. But I think at an optician level now, consumers are going to want to have that private one-on-one appointment. We've always done a pretty steady e-commerce business, and we've done virtual styling for a while. But I think that's some vocabulary you're going to start seeing more often, and the consumer is going to feel more comfortable with that. I know e-com has always kind of been a little bit dirty word when it comes to eyewear, but I think now it's, you know, human-to-human contact is definitely changing.
Well, listen, I was
flexible payments and things like that too, which I think will also.
I was going to ask you about e-commerce shortly anyway, so maybe let's just have a little bit more of that conversation right now.
Yeah,
I know.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I know your business is very e-com based. Tell us a little bit about how you started that, what you're using, what you could recommend.
Yeah, we started our e-com in 2014. So, you know, I think Warby Parker had just launched. I don't remember quite when they did, but e-com, eyewear on the internet was very rare. But we also knew, being this small little store in Oklahoma, in a, you know, third tier retail market, but yet we were working with brands that, you know, you couldn't find in a lot of markets yet. You know, a lot of the emerging designers we worked with at that time. So for us, it was like, okay, how do we evolve what we're doing and reach a broader base. And we were receiving a lot of phone calls already and shipping things internationally. And we found that that just was really time consuming, that we needed some kind of platform to help kind of have this sales funnel. So I think we were pretty lucky by being early on that. And then after that, we started using it as a tool to help facilitate our clients. You know, whenever we are doing marketing, it's a lot easier to send somebody to our website to get a closer look at a product if they're remotely versus waiting and inviting them into the store. But we also know that that sales funnel is all about driving them to our online store, but then driving them to make the purchase in store. You know, so I think if you're a retailer and you're thinking about that e-com is not a second store or a third store, but it's a tool to facilitate your existing clients, I think you'll see some success with it.
Yeah, just on that note, I mean, we're a digital marketing agency, so we've been inundated with calls for people all of a sudden who want to get set up on e-commerce. And so I personally did, you know, a research project and looked at every single e-commerce opportunity out there. There's a lot. There's only some that are specific for industry, and surprisingly, there is only about 12 of them. I know people are asking about virtual try-ons to, you know, what platform. I don't know if we have enough time to get into that, but there is a lot of information available, and maybe we can send out something to the audience after, and I'll talk to parents about that. But yeah, do you use a virtual try-on? Because I know that has been asked a couple of times now. And what you use for virtual styling is enough.
No, we don't do like a digital-based virtual try-on. What we do is ship our frames, you know, essentially a home try-on kit. You know, we try to have a phone conversation first, making sure we're sending the right frames. You know, we treat it very much like if you came into one of our stores. We ask what your needs are, how you plan to wear them, what do you want them to look like, and how expressive do you want them to be. From there, we'll kind of curate a few frames, show either text photos or do FaceTime and show photos, and then we mail them. And then we can reschedule another call where we get to see them wearing them, how they fit. And then it's a lot of shipping, you know, so we're still humanizing that digital experience.
Great. I'm going to move over to Jennifer, ask you a quick question about telemedicine. You did start talking about it a little bit already. I'm getting questions about what can an optometrist do via telemedicine, and is that changing? Is that set per state, or is that now changing?
Well, I think you might want to check with your state because you want to make sure that you know what the rules are for the state that you're in. Some examples of what you can do are dry eye treatments if patients are having issues with dry eyes, if they think that they have pink eye. I've seen a few of my Ortho-K follow-ups, so let's say they're contact lens follow-ups. Swollen lids, it's spring season, so allergies is a big one right now. Foreign body sensation, and even vision therapy. I've done a few of that through telehealth. So I think it's a great platform for that, but obviously things where you need to use a slit lamp to take a look at their eyes that you can't use a camera on your laptop for, you want to make sure that you schedule that separately for more of an emergency visit in the office.
Great. And Mei, are you doing any telemedicine as well?
Yes, I am. You know, during COVID also, I think it's important to remember that actually the Department of Health Human Services, those are the people that basically enforce all the HIPAA rules, but they have actually released, you know, that they're not going to actually enforce any of the HIPAA violations right now. We are in a pandemic. It's a public health crisis. And so that was something I was concerned with when I took it online, was that I had patients that were reaching out. We've got text, FaceTime, things like that. But that right now, I think it's important to remember that that's all okay. You know, that we, in a time like this, the important thing is that we can deliver this care, prevent exposing more of our patients by, you know, having to seek care elsewhere. So I think that that's important to remember, that for people that feel like a little bit maybe like overwhelmed to have to like set up an official platform or things like that, that it is okay to do phone, do FaceTime, whatever through your computer or whatever, however you could do to manage that, as long as it's not a public platform, like, I don't think anyone's professional judgment would take them onto Facebook Live or anything like that. So as long as it's some type of private communication, you're not going to be in violation with any HIPAA. The rules have all been lifted. But I think obviously after and going forward, that's definitely something that we want to be able to offer to our patients, and telehealth, telemedicine, and do it in a platform in which is HIPAA compliant. So I know that there's like a list, Jen mentioned DoxyMe, there's like Spruce, you could do Skype Business is considered HIPAA. I kind of came up with the list. Zoom for Healthcare is HIPAA compliant. So there are platforms out there that are HIPAA compliant right now, because I think things are changing so quickly. We want to just be there for our patients immediately with health, with the telemedicine. Just use your phone.
Right. And another one I heard of was iCare Live, is another platform that's available. One of the things that I wanted to add, and this comes from a marketing perspective, is, as I mentioned, we are getting, asked daily, can you integrate telemedicine into the website, which we are actively trying to do? Can you integrate, the e-store? Can you build an e-store? And the one thing that I've really told everybody is, number one, don't start an e-store or telemedicine just because of this. Build it so that it's going to sustain you in the future. And also, don't build something you don't market to, you don't drive the traffic to. So Gary can probably talk to this, is that you can't build an e-store and they're just going to come. You have to have a traffic solution. How are you going to get people there? You have to have a marketing arm attached to it if you really want to drive, a big amount of traffic. And so, Gary, what do you actually do to get people to your e-store?
Yeah, I mean, we don't do any ads, which I know is pretty traditional with a lot of web stores, because again, we're using it as a tool to assist current clients and then hopefully capture some new clients along the way. But we're very active on Instagram. We use as many swipe up and shoppable links as possible. Also, our team members are very active at driving traffic to our web stores. As we have new frames that arrive or we upload to our website, our team is texting that to clients that we think will be interested in those styles. So that's the way we're generating traffic with it.
Well, you kind of led right into my next question, and that's about social media. And I'll probably direct this over to Jennifer. If you were late arriving, you didn't hear that Jennifer is a social media queen. She has a ton of subscribers, and she is super active. I mean, Mei and Gary are as well, so they're certainly not foreign to social media, but Jennifer is certainly one of the most active optometrists I see in the industry. Tell us a couple tips right now on using social media, Jennifer, from a point of, what should people be posting? It is kind of a sensitive time, so knowing what to post and maybe what not to, and how active should somebody be?
Yeah. Well, I would say for all the people who said they never have time for social media, including all the practices that say, they just don't have time for it, you have more than enough time right now. Everyone's on their phones. You basically have their undivided attention, and that's very, very valuable. So I would say you use this time to really grow your personal brand, whether it's used to educate, you're using it to empower, inspire others, or to entertain. I would talk about things as if you are relating information to a friend who's on the other side of the screen, and create relatable content. So there are things I would say, you can talk about things that I personally shared. How does coronavirus affect your eyes? How should you clean your glasses at home if you aren't able to come into an optical right now? What about wearing your contacts during COVID? Is that a safe time to do that? If you're a brand for a social media page, you can talk about maybe dropping new frames that you have coming into the store for spring, so that when you are opening, these patients will know exactly what type of frames that you have in stock for 2020. So I think there are things that maybe we want to stray from, which is maybe relaying information that is current, that we don't quite know about, like saying certain treatments work for coronavirus because we don't know. I would say stay within our niche environment within eye care and talk about that. But I would also just expand in all directions, consider doing vertical sort of YouTube content or TikTok content. I think it's all very useful to really expand your brand. And personally, I've been just spending more time doing one-on-one coaching with optometry offices to help them grow, whether it's a e-commerce business, a store, or a personal doctor's page, and developing like new products with marketing for ECPs in the near future to help. But I've noticed on a, I guess, side topic with Carrot Eyewear, which is an e-commerce product that I sell only online, it's been surprisingly doing very well during a time like this. I think a lot of people are concerned about blue light and they want something that's very easy to get to their home. Just like Gary said, being able to ship it to them, easy to try on and things like that. So I think this is a great time to maybe consider setting things up for an e-commerce site for whatever products or frames you might have.
And any e-commerce platform you recommend?
I use Shopify, Squarespace. So I think those are really great platforms to use.
Yeah, I know. And again, you know, I had to do a research project in order to conduct a webinar a few weeks back on e-commerce. So Shopify is great. It is custom, so you have to be very involved in the building of it. I've seen a couple interesting things, and I just want to share it. But one is a lot of the e-commerce companies that do work in the industry, in our eye care space, eyewear space, have really expanded quickly what they're doing. So, you know, there's Fitting Box, OptiCommerce, which is owned by OcuCo, Get Sightly. There's a couple that are owned by companies like yourlens.com and Frames Data. There's just, you know, there's a lot of choices. So my advice to people is to really investigate each one, because every single one is different and does something different. The other thing I saw that is really interesting is people using Instagram as almost a frame catalog. So going into their dispensary, taking pictures of their frames right now, posting them on Instagram and using it, you know, like I said, a virtual catalog. So people are getting very innovative in this space. Well, we've got about 15 minutes left. I want to save a few minutes for Q&A. At this time, you know, I want you guys to tell us, and I'm going to go to Mei first, but, you know, what are some of the things that you've noticed in your practice? So what a lot of business owners have told us is that this has driven them to, you know, get back into their business. They're looking at financials. They're looking, you know, at how the business is running. They've got time now to actually spend in the business. And it's times like these where you see things that need upgrading, need fixing, you know, and you're actually having the time to invest in it. So Mei, has anything kind of popped out to you that you're in right away? You're like, I'm going to work on this while I'm in downtown.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of things. I think before, I reference everything pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID. So pre-COVID, I already had sort of this vision of being a little bit, having more of this online presence. So I just now obviously wish I had expedited that, but it's definitely expedited now. But I had enlisted marketing for ECPs, which Trudy, you are a co-founder of, to relaunch my website. And that was the intention of then building out the e-commerce. I had in the fall added the Luminance IPL machine as an additional services for my dry eye clinic. And so I wanted to have that platform to sell sort of my products that would support that, in addition to obviously just always wanted to be online with our contacts reordering and any other products, our dry eye products and things like that. So yeah, immediately as soon as this hit, I called up my team over marketing for ECPs and said, we need to expedite this right away. We launched our new website and your team did a great job. Last week, we launched my site. I signed up with Get Sightly and we are in the process of launching my online storefront. So that is definitely one of the things that, you know, obviously was to me like, okay, I know that that was in the works, but it is like pedal to the metal now, get it launched ASAP. The other thing is that I'm really focusing my energies in looking at every single step within the practice now that needs to be changed, all the new implementations that we need to adopt and incorporate that will make the experience of coming into the practice a safe one that would be compliant as much as I can, trying to think about how we're going to make this experience contactless. Because I don't think this is going to be the last shelter in place that we're going to experience. So, you know, I'm thinking about making sure that maybe all our forms that need to be signed, that they are online, that they can just download them, sign them, and email them back to us so that there is no paper, there's no contact, they don't have to come in, touch pens and papers. Just thinking about all of those little steps that, you know, asking people to come in wearing masks, maybe handing out gloves when they come in, having like social distancing within the practice, setting up our chairs so that they're further apart, scheduling appointments so that they're longer, and that, and scheduling every encounter, like no more drop-ins. You can't just drop by to pick up your contacts. You can't just drop by and get glasses adjusted, that everything needs to be scheduled so that we kind of have full control, and that the patients will feel safe coming to the practice and not feeling like, oh, I don't know, is this a good time to come? Is there going to be a lot of people there? And a lot of these different measures. I think also as optometrists, we perform for the procedures that we perform, like, you know, foreign body removals, our lid expressions and things like that. I've been ordering. So if you all don't have like sterilization boxes, definitely I've had that, and I added to that getting these sterilized bags, sort of like when you go to get your manicure pedicure, the tools come out of these bags, they're sealed, and we can do that with our tools. So actually pre-COVID, I had actually bought these bags, and now for sure I'm looking into actually using them. To be quite honest, I've had them, I just haven't really used them. I would sterilize the equipment, but then now, you know, these bags, you can put your equipment in there, sterilize them in your box, and they will self-seal, and you keep them sealed so that before you're going to do a procedure, the patient sees you opening up a sterilized bag with your tools in it. I think these are all measures that I think we need to, that I'm thinking about, that I think are going to be very important going forward.
It's good that you answered that, because that was a question that came from the audience, is anybody looking at a sterilization protocol for their businesses? So I know, Gary, you mentioned spaced appointments or actual appointments for eyewear fitting. I think we are going to look at a new normal. Gary, are you planning anything different now that you've had some time in your business?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully in our business, we have the culture that we're always kind of planning something different, even pre-COVID and during COVID. And we hope that we're always innovating, adapting and innovating as we go. But our biggest focus is how do we make our client interaction more personal and more private, where both our opticians and our clients feel safe, you know, when they're within our four walls or virtually.
I think, you know, this question as I come to you, Jennifer, is a little bit of the last question and a little bit of a new question. And, you know, what you've currently saw, you're in the middle of construction, so you're probably planning some new things anyways. But what do you think is the future of an optometry practice and optical store? What does that future look like right now? And I know you're just predicting, but love to hear your predictions.
Yeah, I think whether it's big or small, this will definitely have an impact on almost all businesses. I do predict that there's going to be a high demand first, only because a lot of patients haven't been able to see their doctors to renew their prescription or have annual exams. So there will be a flood of high volume of patients when stores are able to reopen. I do think that patients are going to prioritize their overall health, because with this, it is a scary concept that you know could be healthy and you could still be affected by COVID. So with that, I think there is going to be more of a demand for specialized treatments and longer time within treatment. And like Mei said, spacing exams out. I think there's also going to be a higher demand for daily contacts, because it's overall promoting good hygiene and good health. Sterilization, I think our practice, we were planning to already be mostly digital anyway, so everything was virtual, sort of electronic, with from signing in to checking out. Just not touching anything as much as possible. You know, maybe things like the optometrist would be wearing masks and gloves when they do a slit lamp exam or dilation. Maybe cleaning the glasses off before the patients try them on in the store. You do that when you go to Sephora and you try on makeup. You clean those brushes and you clean the lipstick. Maybe implementing that into your offices, that might be the new way of practicing. And possibly, I think the virtual exams will probably be around, maybe for things that don't require chair time, like follow-ups, and that also helps the burden within the exam room, so that your patients don't feel like you know, they're rushed, or you have more time to spend in the chair time for those who need it. And implementing video chats, calls, FaceTime, texts, more than in-person visits.
I couldn't agree more. I do think a lot of what we're implementing right now because of COVID-19 will start to become the new normal, and we've already heard from patients saying, "Oh, this is a great way to do my follow-up visits. You know, I want to do this next time," as far as virtual check-in. So I do see a lot of what we're doing staying and becoming the new norm. And as we're getting down to some of the last few minutes, I've been watching some of the questions. So audience, we've answered quite a few along the way, but if you have a question right now, it's a great time to type it in. While I go to the panel, and I'm gonna wait for a couple questions to come in, but while I go to the panel, we'd love for you to offer everybody kind of one last piece of advice or a tip to get through this. And it doesn't have to be about the business or the industry. It can be a personal, you know, inspiration or tip as well. So I'm going to go to Mei first. What would you say as a last note to everyone?
I say this is a time to, you know, it's a difficult time. It's unprecedented. No one would have imagined we'd be here, I'm sure. So, but I think it's also a time of opportunity, because we have an opportunity to change up, evolve, and do things in a different way. And it's an opportunity. We have, everybody's at home, eyes are getting dry, people are their eyes are getting strained. People are very aware of their health, like Jennifer was saying. So I feel like our patients have been more than ever, they are primed to listen to us right now. And we can use this opportunity to actually show them that, you know, we can do things differently. We can incorporate other ways of doing this. And I think it's important for all of us to just remember that this isn't like doom and gloom. It's definitely a chance for us to come out of this and adapt. So definitely adapt, and also to view this as an opportunity to actually build that kind of trusting relationship. I think our patients are going to really look to us after this to slowly regain that confidence. And so it's going to be up to us to seize that opportunity to build that trust and be their go-to, you know, that loyalty and whatnot. I had one more thing I was going to say, I think that just slipped my mind, but yeah, I think it's an opportunity for all of us. And the other thing I was going to say is, yeah, the measures that we are implementing and that we're thinking about now as we're in this shelter in place and taking it virtual, like I think you had touched upon this, Trudy, I think it's important that to integrate that after this. It's not so much like, oh, we did that then during COVID. Now we're over that. Let's just forget that ever happened. I think it's important to kind of just integrate it, because there might be other shelter-in-place measures that come out, and pockets, and as it relaxes, I think there might be some other lockdowns and whatnot. So I think it's just about integrating all of it and adapting and evolving as we go.
Yeah, well said. Gary, advice, tip?
Oh, sorry. I mean, I agree with Mei. I think she hit it spot on. You know, it's what we're doing now is going to become our new norm. And I think our clients are really expecting all of us to really kind of think differently of how we do business. And what I hope at the end of the day, we're all a little more efficient because of this. You know, we're able to assist our clients a lot faster. We're able to keep some cleaner, safer environments, and just being a little more thoughtful about, you know, all of our time. But again, everything Mei said, I totally agree with.
Great. And Jennifer?
I would say, as a small business owner, learning from your mistakes as soon as you can, adapting to those changes as quick as you can is important, because situations will never become easier. It's just, it makes you stronger as an owner and as a leader of your practice. And I think on a personal level, I think I just want to share that it's okay to not be okay. I think many of us feel like we have to be on top of things, but this is all new to all of us. I don't, don't be so hard on yourself. I just always tell myself, like, you are not working from home, you're working at home during a crisis, right? So you're just trying to figure out what works and implementing it. And day by day that can change, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, it's been interesting because as the questions have been coming in, the audience has been answering them for the audience. It's been great. We don't have very many to answer. I wanted to say one piece of advice, coming from me, is that crises have a way of pushing people outside of their comfort zones and letting them create something spectacular out of a crisis situation. So let it push you and let it adapt you and change you in your business. Don't let it get to you, let it change you. So really, I think most of the questions have been answered. I'm going to turn it over to Terrence and let him wrap it up for us.
Excellent. Well, bravo, thank you. Thank you, Trudy. I really appreciate you being the maestro for this optical symphony that took place here. They were great, weren't they? They were amazing. Yeah. Thank you all. Thank Mei, thank you, Jen, Gary, my brother, appreciate it. You guys really showing and telling us our secret sauce and really helping the industry out at a time like this. So just to let you guys know that we are going to be doing coffee talk each week, Wednesday at 12:15. Next week, the topic is what's after COVID-19, and that will be moderated by Dr. Mick Kling from Vision Optometry. He's going to talk about the operational recovery, the scheduling, staffing, and product, the financial recovery, managing cash flow, PPP funds, vendors in your accounts, as well as the mental and emotional recovery of COVID-19. Now, in addition to Coffee Talk, each week we have another session that goes on. It goes on Friday at 4:15, and you can see my screen right now. But it's going to be called Happy Hour. And Happy Hour, we're going to be exploring a few creatives. We're talking about what they're doing during COVID-19 and how they are using this time to really check into their creative side and inspiration. So this week, Friday at 4:15, the topic is the definition of avant-garde eyewear. And we'll be speaking with Anna Corinne Carlson, who is the owner and designer of Anna Corinne Carlson Eyewear, as well as T. Kwa, who is the owner and artisan of Regards Eyewear. So please log into that. You can take a look at Vision Expo's social media page for the link. You can look at my social media page at The Optical Poet. We will have the link posted very soon for you to register for Friday Happy Hour. Do not bring your coffee to that. Bring your wine glasses, bring your beer mugs to that one as well. We're all gonna have a good time on Fridays at 4:15 Eastern Standard Time. I also want to thank all of you for attending Coffee Talk. I'm getting little love letters from all across the world. So shout out to Rutherford, New Jersey. Shout out to Alexandria, Virginia. Shout out to Beverly Hills. I see you, Dr. Zackheim. Shout out to Oakland. I see you, Dr. Gill. Colorado, I see you, Ken. Bonjour, Montreal. Te amamos, Puerto Rico. Salugon, Cape Town, South Africa. And if I missed your country and I missed your city, I still love you the same exact way. So thank you all for attending this year's Coffee Talk, and we will try to get to some of your questions very soon and email you the response. So thank you all for coming, and thank you, Dr. Jen, Dr. Mei, Gary, Trudy. Really appreciate it. So
thank you.
Signing off, saying goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.